welcome to the $1 Billion Podcast, a weekly show about the entrepreneurial journey and making it big in any industry. We're your hosts, Joe White and Kane Daniel.
And today we have with us Darick Battaglia. Darick, welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me, Kane and Joe. Pleasure being here.
Darick brings a huge amount of insight from his extensive career in mortgage and real estate. He's the owner of DLC YBM Group, that's Dominion Lending Centers, as well as Yellow Brick Realty. He's behind househitch.com, and finally is the innovative mind behind pong.com, along with his son. So Darick has a lot to share, and again, welcome. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, gentlemen. It's nice being here.
We'd love to, Darick, just hear, first of all, maybe a little bit more about sort of pong.com. I know we haven't talked about that offline, but it looks really cool in visiting the website.
Yeah. So coming from a creative father, I've got his genes, and my son and I were playing ping pong in our basement during the COVID lockdowns. He's a business sport management student at Waterloo University, and we were thinking of ideas for a project for school assignments. And we were just playing around and said, well, one thing led to another. We started playing two-handed ping pong with some of the things that we had in our dojo, which includes boxing mitts and boxing focus pads and, just taking things apart and gluing and we had a lot of fun and taping, actually, duct taping. And when we finally duct taped the paddles to our focus mitts and started playing, we go, wow, this is kind of fun. So one thing leads to another. Next thing you know, I'm contacting a manufacturer overseas to send us a bunch of samples, Zoom calls, like 20 different prototypes. We landed on one, and we went for an international utility patent. And then I had to start writing a bunch of checks, right? So there was a tipping point there where we said, is this really something we want to do? Because it's just a school project, or we're having a lot of fun with it. So I felt like I was gonna roll the dice on myself and invest the money in myself and my son. That money could have gone anywhere, but I felt the education and growing a business for him, as well as actually something I felt had some merit. So pong.com was born out of COVID lockdown, and my son's our love for sports, and my son's undergrad course at school. And we're waiting for him to graduate before we really go full force, but we are selling these overseas, believe it or not, in Czech. We have a representative there, and in the UK. We've got an Amazon account. We've got a Shopify account. We've been to the Toy Fair in New York City. We've got Dick's Sporting Goods is looking at it right now.
Wow.
Costco has been courting us. But we just are these two guys trying to, hold it all together until he can put his full-time attention to this when he gets out of school.
Let's maybe rewind a little bit and go back to the early days when you decided that you wanted to get into the real estate or mortgage industries. Can you walk us through your journey there?
Yeah, I'd love to. And so Wilfrid Laurier University graduate, psychology. And when I got out of school, I was looking for work. So I started in the construction business, which it was very hot. It was the boom bust of the 80s. And it was easy to get a job, digging ditches, building fences, renovating homes. You just had to go to Canadian Tire, buy a tool belt, and you were off to the races, really. Hand out some flyers and be, healthy enough and young enough, or healthy enough to be able to work. But not knowing anything about the construction business at all, it didn't seem to matter. People just hired you because they needed someone to build a fence or a deck. And back in those days, building permits, they didn't really exist. There was no safety. You didn't have to get locates. You just went ahead and started digging and building, and you're there. So you learned really quickly without all the red tape. And that led me to buying a house, tearing it down, subdividing it into 4 houses, and building them myself from the ground up, right from the footings,
Wow.
right in the ground, building, pouring the cement, and then losing all my money because by the time they were done, the bust had happened, right? So,
Right. Right.
but I was still young enough to recover, and I had all this tremendous knowledge of how to build a home, and this is in my early 20s. So then I looked to something a little bit more stable, and that was the appraisal business. So I went back to school. I got my CRA, and I joined a local appraisal firm, Davidson Appraisals, and he paid. We were getting $150 per appraisal, and I got half of that. And I went and got my AECI designated courses. Did not get the AECI, but had the courses. I was able to work on commercial reports, and then eventually I left Davidson and opened up my own firm. And so busy in the appraisal business. I was doing 100 appraisals a month on my own,
Wow.
out of my garage. And that consisted of, believe it or not, you would get the sale data in a book. You'd have to photocopy the sales, cut them out, glue them into the paper, put the package together, deliver it to the bank, Scotiabank, TD Bank, and all the lenders that were hiring. You had to deliver. All of that had to be done. Like there was more work in the processing than actually trying to figure out the value of the home. That's super fast. So on the appraisal side, the actual appraisal time is probably less than 20 minutes. But it's the driving to the house, it's the looking at the house, it's all those things that take a little extra time. But once you're good at that job, you just know everything about your industry, you know everything in your community, you know real estate like crazy. I was able to buy properties because I'm out there roaming the streets looking, and I'd find deals. I bought 5 condos in the ski in ski out at Todd Brooker Lodge in Collingwood because people were just unloading them for like $30,000-$40,000. And I said, how come they're so cheap? And literally put in lowball offers. And that was the beauty of the appraisal business. If you were in tune to the real estate, you could find deals and do your job as well. So then fast forward, at the time I was married, I'm no longer married. My wife had a mortgage center franchise that she had purchased back in, sometime in the 90s. And Dan Putnam and Bob Ord, CIBC First Line, the whole bid market system. And she had that. Now, interesting about that story is it was Bob Ord who made the deal with Steve Jobs of Apple Computers, actually negotiated with Steve to create this software program on Apple computers just for the mortgage business. And they delivered these Apple computers with the software already built into them on these laptops, and that's what you got. You open the laptop, there's your LSS software, and you had a business in a tank that Steve Jobs actually created for Bob Ord. It's an interesting story.
That is a fantastic story. Yeah.
Yeah, and you plugged them into the wall, and you had a Bell phone line that just dial up network. It had the bid market system, so 7 lenders bid on your deals. You got to present them to your clients professionally, and then you could subscribe and have this whole CRM program done, sent out birthday cards and can openers and all these little trinkets for $75 per file. It was fantastic. It worked brilliantly. So 2001, my first child was born, Ben, and Trina wasn't able to work and put her full time into business, the mortgage business. She was going to be a stay-at-home mom for the most part. And I was looking at my appraisal business, and just very shortly prior to that, a major shift had happened at CMHC, and they created this thing called Emily. And overnight, I lost 50% of all my mortgage business because CMHC decided they no longer needed appraisals. So I went from doing 100 to 50, woke up one day to the next, and that was the change. So I said,
I mean, people look at now and think technology has an impact, and that's how technology can impact.
That's exactly what happened to me 24 years ago. And wow, technology. And at that time, the digital cameras were just starting to come out. Kodak had these black and whites. I have still the original black and white digital Kodak camera that only 4 pictures per at a time you could take. But it meant I didn't have to develop pictures anymore at Black's, right? And drive to the Black's camera store and pick up the pictures and paste them into the paper. But so I said, well, that's not a good thing. I don't like where the appraisal business is going. Our fees haven't gone up in all the time I've been in this business. It's still $150. I like this mortgage business. It seems like it's got an upside. I can build it more with a team. And it seemed like, it had a bigger upside. So I said, I'm going to get rid of the appraisal business. And at that time, it was called Consolidated Appraisal Services. We were the largest appraisal business north of Toronto at the time. And, during that period, I had been talking to Tom McCormick just before NAS was created. We sat down at a bar and we mapped out NAS together. And I had a chance to get in on that and didn't. And, he, as we know, he ran with that and did a great job, as we know today. It's still it's still as profitable and awesome as ever.
Yeah.
But that
and
was
NAS, for those who aren't familiar, is National Appraisal Services.
Yeah, there's one of 3. Like there's Solidify, there's RPS, there's NAS.
Yeah.
Basically, I think there's another one that Chris Bisson owns as well. So there's a 4th that's popular. Chris was a Mortgage Center guy back then too. So I sold the appraisal business. My partner, John Shaw, bought me out and I started in the mortgage business. This is 2001. And I didn't know anything about it. Zero. Again, my wife, I'm just left alone with these files and had to figure it out. No mentor. So all I did basically was open the file folders and said, okay, I have to do this. And I would just go and I would copy it and I would just do it. Drop down menus, fill in the blanks. And the underwriters back then did most of the work for you. The bank underwriters really, you gave them the file. They told you everything you needed to do to get it done. And you didn't even have to think. And then most times all they needed was a pay stub. You didn't need the paperwork you need today. So it was a very easy business for me to jump into. The interesting parts of it is Mortgage Protection Plan was obviously back around then too. And I was their top salesman in the country. And, they would give me accolades. Wow, Darick, like, you're amazing at selling this insurance. I go, yeah, I guess, thanks a lot. Like, it's no big deal. And I didn't realize that it was optional. Right. So,
So you did an assumed sale, right? You just.
I said, you guys sign right here. I didn't know it was optional. I just hadn't. It was just overwhelming everything that was going on. I said, oh, there's MPP. You got to sign here, and so everyone was taking it. And then I guess it dawned on me, and they said it's optional. And I go, oh, it is, and I was no longer the top guy in Canada anymore. But it's a funny story, right? It goes back to the early days when you're shooting. I mean, you shoot from the hip pretty much today, but you really have to know. I mean, I look at things today because I am a real estate broker as well, trained appraiser, trained mortgage broker. I have a team of agents. Used to, do construction. I still do infill development. I'm subdividing a property right now into 22 lots. So I do that on the side. It's not even a side job. I may end up building the houses. I don't know what I'm going to do with that yet. But you have all of this knowledge, and you get this confidence. You just have this innate confidence to do anything you want. And new people that come into this business today, and I go, wow, like all the things you have to learn, like just even understanding what NAS means. What is that? Mm-hmm. What are all these acronyms that are, AVMs? Like, it's just like one acronym after another, and we're all speaking this language. But if you're new, and the documentation you have to get today to satisfy a lender, and they're not helping you. You have to know your stuff, and there's so many of us out there that are overwhelming the BDMs. We're overwhelming the systems, and the banks are so focused on funding ratios. That wasn't even a word back when I started. I know Tom Hogg, for example, he's probably the best in the mortgage industry. He still maintains a 100% funding ratio, which is amazing with MCAT.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's some real pros out there that can do it. I don't. I'm at least 70, but I do a lot of tough deals, privates, B deals, A deals. I just seem to get the most difficult deals all the time. Maybe I'm not alone in that, but I certainly have my fair share of them. So, fast forward 2008, Dominion Lending came knocking at our door with all these new systems. Mortgage Center had hired some executives from CIBC to run Mortgage Center, and they didn't know anything about our business. They didn't know mortgage brokering, and they weren't moving fast enough to keep me interested in thinking. I had seen technology take over my business. So I knew that if you don't stay on top of this, you're going to fall behind. We're going to be out. And Dominion was doing all of the things that everyone else needed to be doing, and were just sitting on their fat wallets, not worrying about it. And there was Chris and Gary in an 8x8 booth in the corner of the Symbol Conference, standing there, welcoming people over. And it was just a little tiny 8x8 booth. Took me out to lunch, listened to what I had to say. All the confidence, the same confidence they have today, they had then. They came in as self-made millionaires from some patents they invented. And Chris was a big Royal LePage guy out west.
Yeah.
And they were lifetime buddies, building this fun little company that they started in Palm Springs. Then Kevin Cochran came knocking on my door with his laptop presentation, and Mortgage Center was not paying attention. And I said, there's the future. So I went to my team at the time. There might have been 20 guys in Yellow Brick at the time, and asked them do you want to move? And everyone said, let's go. So we became the first Dominion Lending Center franchise in Ontario in 2008. And
wow.
Now,
Darick, that is,
that's such a cautionary tale for businesses in general. Like that's a little MBA story there, that if you're not going up the mountain, you're going down the mountain. There's no staying at one spot on the mountain. You have to continue to grow and embrace the new technologies. We could probably talk for hours about companies like Kodak and other companies that
Kodak was leading the way with digital cameras. Now my most recent venture, again, it's not sitting around waiting to be a dinosaur. I created yellowbrick.ca, which is a mortgage brokerage and a dual licensed real estate brokerage. So if you join Yellow Brick, you're coming in as a dual licensed agent, and you're promoting yourself as a mortgage agent and a realtor. And we're getting some good traction. We have 5 guys on that right now, and we're super excited about promoting that. And then House Hitched was created because I was getting clients into my office that weren't qualifying on $100,000 salaries, 800 Beacon scores, and they couldn't buy anything. Right? 4 years previously, that was no problem. So I said, well, why don't they don't have access to co-signers? So we need to get these guys together. We need to find, they need to be able to find each other to buy a house together. These young people.
Yeah, that's an amazing idea. That's not just an idea; it's turned into reality.
Yeah,
but a couple of things I'd love to ask you about the concept, and again, reality of having a brokerage that combines real estate and mortgage brokering. Could you talk to us a bit about how you manage conflicts? There are always people, in our industry, in the education side, people come to us and say, hey, can I do both? And it's like, yeah. But a lot of the times the question is, but isn't that a conflict? So could you speak to that for us?
Yeah. Well, it's all about disclosure. And so what we're finding is our realtors first and mortgage brokers second. So, but they can promote themselves when they're doing listing presentations as having this full service, easy, and they'll share the commission. There's more commission for them. So, They hand off their mortgage deals to our two central underwriters, who are the best, in my opinion, in the industry. That's Rob Valinga and Adam Bazic. There aren't two better. I mean, they're $1 million producers on their own, and they know this business inside and out. So the deals go over to those guys. They do it from soup to nuts, and the agent gets paid 50%.
Amazing.
And it's their client. All the CRM, the gold rush that Dominion Lending's creating is all part and parcel of that. They can use their database from their realtor side to start marketing to the mortgage side, and they're making commission on the mortgage side.
Darick, you touched on so much already, but I really want to ask, even with what you're talking about now, it sounds like you built something that has real value for even those coming in that are new, with mentorship and with guidance. You also mentioned earlier that when you started, you didn't have any of that mentorship, and you were basically, transposing from the paper app to the.
Well, your wife was your mentor, right?
But she was raising Ben, and I was literally. But it was easy, guys. Listen, I didn't tell you that also, and this is the thing that most new people don't realize today. Banks weren't competing with us. I'd get a client would come in, I'd offer them 4%, the bank would offer them 5%, and wouldn't budge on their 5%. So they'd come back. I was taking 10 mortgage apps a day.
Wow.
I was funding 40 a month in my early days. That was 400 to 500 on my own a year, because the banks were not concerned about us. We were too small. Don't worry about it.
Well, you know what? That's, as you've talked about, I think, talking about opportunities and taking advantage of the opportunities when they present themselves, because you don't know how long they're going to be present. And, like what you've done throughout your career seems to me very much taking advantage of the opportunities that presented themselves to you. Whereas a lot of folks actually don't do that. They sit and they wait, and then, when you're talking about that 1% difference that lasted for another year, if you didn't take advantage of that, right? It would have.
You need a leader. You need someone to show you the way, and it's not everyone's capable of doing it. It's just a fact. And some people can do it. Some people just aren't capable, but they're way more capable of working on nurturing relationships, which I have been lousy at. The whole CRM thing. I'm only now looking at this director of WOW opportunity that Dominion Lending is promoting, and the gold rush, which are all the things I should have been doing, but not. I've been very, very weak at it. Very weak. So yes, I have this creative side, but I have this other side that's so bad. So I wish I had both, but I don't.
Well, you know what? I'm divorced as well, so maybe my nurturing side needs some work. But you're absolutely right. When you look at this, I mean, that is a vital part of the business for repeat business, right? Is the nurturing. But going back to just wanted to jump back 1 second for the real estate brokers who are also licensed. So your strategy there is to have them licensed as real estate brokers, also get licensed as mortgage brokers so they can talk to their clients about it, and then hand them off to the real professionals, those two superstar underwriters, to close the deal. And that seems to me to be a brilliant strategy as a business.
Oh, it's the future. Again, here I'm probably saying something, and I'm going to breed all this competition, making the Bob Ward mistake. But I'm first, at least that I know of. Well, I'm not going to say I'm first, but I'm an early adopter for sure.
Yeah.
But I do have some great processes within Yellow Brick Mortgages to make it a reality. And my guys, the guys that were in the company, like Adam and Rob, and we have some senior mentors as well that are superstars. That for a real estate agent, it's such an easy way to get to, like, the mortgage business is easy entry. And it makes you you're so much professional. Plus, you're kept in the loop through the whole process. It's not, your client still looks at you as the mortgage guy, just with a really great supporting team.
Now, Darick, you also
sorry, Kane, I got to ask this question.
Yeah.
How difficult was it for you to start your real estate brokerage?
Well, the real estate brokerage. So again, going back to that boom bust of the late '80s, right? And I got panicky and I was digging ditches and stuff and building fences. And then I said, I better go appraise. I did that. I didn't say I had to, but then I also got my real estate brokerage way back then. So
Right.
I've had it for 20 plus years. I've been
So you got licensed as a real estate broker?
yeah,
Okay.
and I've had that license as an independent brokerage all these years, and I've really done not much with it other than my own personal deals, where I would transact and do the commission myself, and like the Collingwood deals, I put the offers in through my Yellow Brick company. So it was Luke Bazik, Adam Bazik's brother, who's also a realtor. He asked me if I would help him start a brokerage using Yellow Brick real estate as the springboard. And I know Luke so well. He's such a great guy. Adam's such a great guy. We're such good friends that I said, well, Luke, listen, man, I love it. I was hoping one day this would happen and the timing's right. You're the right guys. So we've got Adam and Luke and Rob and myself, some major, valuable guys that can help people get in and get this thing going. So that's really how the realty started.
And talk about seizing the opportunities, right? It seems to be a theme in your career is that you've identified an opportunity and you've seized it, which is, that.
Well,
that
I was
is
patient with that one. That took over 20 years.
Well, it was a slow seize, but you seized
I
it.
don't know if everyone had
Very
the same
slow
patience.
closing of the hand.
Yeah. Timing was right. You have to wait for the right people. And if you force something, it could take a lot of money out of your bank account. Like pong, for example, I'm in over 125,000 on that right now. With inventory and patents and shows and paying my son and so that's you have to write some checks. Sometimes you just have to believe in yourself, right?
And that's a passion play for you as well, right? It probably started out for pong. It probably started out as a passion play,
Yes.
right? So, I mean, you could invest 125,000 in a car.
I could have put it into my radio advertising, which is where it would have gone, right? I wouldn't put it into a car. I would have put it into, generating more business on the mortgage side. And, I always like to take my spare money and find a place to put it where it can generate more money. And I always invest back in myself. That's why my money's all in private mortgages, my personal money. I don't do anything else. I have a couple other small investments, but just to fool around with. But, the private side is a great way to make money in this business. You get to control the whole thing.
And do you want to explain a little bit, Darick, what you mean by the private side, just for those that are wondering what specifically you mean when you mention investing in the private side?
Yeah. So you're a mortgage agent and you have access to money of your own money. Either it's registered in an RSP or maybe it's a line of credit. You've got access to money or savings account. It doesn't matter. So you can take that money and lend it to as a mortgage. First mortgages, second mortgages, thirds, and get a return on your investment just like any other private lender would. You can do it self-directed through your RSP as well. And it's that simple. I don't do syndicateds. I don't match people and put them into mix mortgage investment type things. So I just do one-offs. I have 3 guys that have lots of money that come to me and say they want to put their money out. And I call them, we talk the deal, send them the paperwork. They're approved instantly, or not. And I do the same thing with my own money. And I've been probably averaging, with the lender fees, I charge a lender fee, plus I make a broker fee, plus you get your interest rate. And they usually renew every year. So you're getting another lender fee in a year, small admin fee to administrate it. You're probably averaging, for me, I'm not a greedy person. I'm probably 12% to 14 on average with all of that factored in. I know some guys will claim I'm much, much higher, but my deals aren't risky. They're usually 65% or less on the loan to value. I don't think I have any exposure over that. So, it's all about the appetite that you'll have. Some guys are riskier and they'll charge more. It's just not for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Kane, that was a good question because I think some watching this won't realize, they get focused on the brokering aspect of it and fail to realize that there's also the lending side, the investing side, that
Yeah.
they can really, over time, especially using registered funds, build up their portfolio and earn a great rate of return. And as you're mentioning, 65% loan to value is fairly secure, although, we know mortgages are never completely safe investments.
Yeah.
There's risk, but you can mitigate the risk, and it sounds like that's what you do.
Yeah. I mean, but if you, again, go back to the late 80s when that boom bust happened, there was no regulations on down payments, and builders were selling houses with $1,000 deposits, and people were walking away because they only had $1,000 invested. And that created all of those power of sales back then, tons and tons of power of sales. But now you don't see the power of sales because people have so much invested in the home. There's lots of equity. So if they have trouble making a mortgage payment, they have so much equity in the home that it would make more sense to get a second mortgage to bail themselves out or sell the property. So
Right.
it's very rare today that you will see a power of sale, in my opinion. Like the late 80s, there's just so many of them.
I think there's also a culture thing here that Canadians don't want to default on their mortgage, right? The other debt goes first, and then the mortgage is typically last. And Joe, I didn't want to interrupt, but I wanted to know, Darick, you touched on a few things, the real estate side, you touched on MPP, and then, investing in private mortgages. Are there any other opportunities that you see now, maybe for those that are new coming in? Or where do you see the market going, or what do you see sort of on the wall? I mean, I think you've identified several in your career.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to those coming in?
So brand new, if they're realtors coming in, simple. Get your mortgage license, go to your database, get your mortgage deals over my central underwriting and make more money. And it actually helps you sell the deal when you're sitting in front of the client and say, I do both. It's all tied together. I have more commission coming in, so I'm going to pay for your legal fees. I'm going to offer you something that nobody else can. That's just a beautiful transaction. That's that side. But if you're brand new and you don't have any licenses and you come in as a brand new mortgage agent, I would say that, Dominion Lending Centers, from what I know, I don't know a lot about that. I love what they've done with the Gold Rush. You just get your database into that CRM. And then if you join someone like me, just go get deals and send them to my central underwriter guys, and they will get done, and you'll get paid, and then you can learn from that process as it goes on, and maybe eventually you take it on yourself and you start doing the deals yourself. But it's if you're not building, like I have these two top agents that joined me in the last 12 months. One of them has a coffee shop, so it's even part-time for her, and this other woman who's in the East End of Toronto. Wow. These guys, the social media, beautiful things they're doing on social media, the trade shows they're doing, the interaction with their realtor partners, going to community events, getting them out there, setting up a table, giving away gifts, handing out their cards, being friendly. It takes a lot of work. Like, it's sales 101. Like, you're out there on the weekends, you're going to open houses, you're smiling, you're dropping off flyers. That's what you have to do.
So if I could maybe summarize that, it sounds to me like a great strategy would be to find a brokerage that can take care of the back end and process the deals, and focus on, if this is your strength, focus on networking, marketing, getting the deals, and then I imagine as you go through your career, you're learning how to do the deals.
Yeah.
As the underwriters that are with the brokerage are kind of mentoring you along.
Perfect example. I had this teacher, 30 years, just join us. And, everybody loves this guy. He's a coach. Everyone knows him. But he's just overwhelmed with the mortgage. He doesn't know what to do.
Right.
They're afraid to get the business because they don't know what to do with it. So they're sitting there as mortgage agent going, I don't want anyone to call me. I don't know what to do. But he can give it to the central underwriting team and just focus on, I've got this amazing team behind me. They're my assistants. These are my assistants helping me get your deal done. Yeah. And he's so thrilled with this.
That's such an important piece of advice, especially for those coming in, like you mentioned, outside of the industry. Teachers, we see a lot of we do the mortgage agent course. We see a lot of people from various industries and completely outside of sales and marketing and finance, that people that were driving trucks for a number of years. You mentioned teachers. So those people, I think there is not a lot of confidence coming in to be able to really give a mortgage, huge debt in the finance services. So I think what we see a lot with those individuals is that when they're talking to potential referral sources as well, there's a lot of anxiety that they don't feel they can represent themselves well enough, and being able to leverage the brokerage is a massive, massive strength, as you mentioned. So that's really important when you're deciding also which brokerage you want to join.
If you're a social person and that's your strength, then you'll do well joining someone who has a central underwriting system, because you have the confidence to know, I just need to just get someone to agree to give me a mortgage. I'm going to get it done. But if you don't have that confidence you can get it done, it's very hard to talk mortgages with someone.
And I think that's why a lot of new entrants into the industry take the they take the course, they get hired by a brokerage, and they flounder and leave the industry because they were never able to gain the confidence. They may have had the confidence to market themselves and talk to people, but you're so right. Without the confidence, the technical confidence, you're not going to be confident marketing yourself. And, so very good point.
All right. I guess a kind of a last question, Darick. Where do you see the role of mortgage agents or the industry as a whole going in the future, in the next 5 years, the next 10 years?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm really thrilled that Bank of Montreal has come back into our network. That's a sign that they believe in us. That's a huge feather in our cap. HSBC being bought out by RBC, unfortunate, but the BMO is a gigantic endorsement for us. I know that we service the heck out of our clients. It would be very hard for anyone to compete against the things that Gary Morris and Dominion Lending Centers is sending forward to us. That's just our network. I'm sure that all the other guys are doing a great job too. But we are motivated, commissioned salespeople, and if you're good at that job, I don't think there's nobody that can push us out of the industry. So I feel very confident that our industry is going to be strong for my lifetime. There's always a need for the tough deals, especially the privates, the B side. Those are so complicated. Yes, I do see the rate site guys, the Nestos, True North. We know them. They're Ron. These guys they're smart. They figured out the algorithms. They've got great back end stuff, and they give great. But that's something that's new, and it has definitely competing against the traditional mortgage broker. There's room for it all, I believe. There's room for it all. We've got lots of immigration. We've got new people coming in. So I just feel like there is a lot of room.
And there's still more market share to be had as well.
Yeah.
Okay, Darick, any final thoughts that you want to leave our listeners with today?
I was really good. I've known Joe forever.
Yeah.
We go back to my beginnings. So, we've got a really nice history. Joe's like the best in the teaching world. So it's great to be on this call with you.
Thanks.
Kane, super nice to see you out in Vancouver and enjoy that short flat white with you. Are you still drinking them?
Yeah, I have. I've had a few since. So thank you for turning me on to that.
Yeah. So this this is great meeting you and being part of Remic, and has been a thrill for me. This is a big deal for me to be on this call, so I really appreciate it.
Darick, you're a true professional, a true gentleman, and I think those two aspects of your career speak volumes about the person you are and why you've done so well. So it's us who thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know right before you got on here, you were dealing with a cold call, somebody calling you from their car saying, "Can you help me?" And you know what? You are the consummate professional. You did that, got on here, And we can't tell you how much we appreciate you taking the time.
Oh, it's been my
out of
pleasure.
your day.
Such a good time. A really nice chat, guys.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you, Darick.
Thanks, Darick.
Thanks for tuning in to the $1 Billion Podcast. Make sure to subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode.
For more in-depth entrepreneurial insights, follow us on social media, and for more info on the show, go to billiondollarpodcast.com.
See you next time.